Welcome to One Night Elsewhere. Tonight, you will spend a rainy night in a real medieval inn, in England, in the year 1462. The rain reaches Andover before you do. By the time the first timber roofs appear through the dusk, water is running from the edge of your hood. It follows the folds of your cloak, gathers at your sleeves, and falls in slow, heavy drops beside the patient steps of your horse. The road behind you has almost disappeared. There is only a dark ribbon of mud, softened by rain and evening, leading back into the country you crossed during the day. Ahead, the high street grows clearer. One building stands wider than the houses beside it. A painted sign moves gently above a timber gateway. The image upon it is an angel, pale against the deepening sky. This is the Angel Inn in Andover, in the south of England. And tonight, the year is 1462. The inn is real. Its timber frame, courtyard, hall, chambers, and stables are preserved in the building and in surviving records. An inventory was made in this very year. The rain, the traveler, and the quiet sequence of the night ahead are a careful reconstruction. You will pass beneath the painted sign, leave your horse out of the weather, eat while rain touches the roof, and climb to a small chamber above the animals. Nothing is waiting for you beyond the next few steps. No distant mile has to be crossed tonight. The gateway is open. There is light within it. For tonight, the road ends here. You allow the horse to continue at its own unhurried pace. It has carried you through a long, wet afternoon, and the lights of the town are no longer a hope at the edge of the road. They are here, reflected in shallow water between the ruts. Your horse is not the great war horse of a painted romance. It is smaller, steadier, and far more useful. It carries you, your cloak, a little food, and the wrapped bundle secured behind the saddle. Inside that covering is a length of cloth. Andover is known for such things. Wool and finished fabric move through the town, passing between workers, merchants, and customers. The bundle does not make you wealthy. It may belong to an employer, a buyer, or to a small transaction of your own. Tonight, it simply explains why the rain matters. Wet cloth becomes heavier. Damp can stain it. Mud can work through a careless wrapping. You reach behind you and touch the cords. They remain tight. The road beneath the horse belongs to a larger web. People travel for markets, work, legal business, and worship. Andover matters because routes linking London, Salisbury, and Southampton meet here. The angel stands where journeys become meals, beds, fodder, storage, and rent. It is more than a place to buy ale. It is an inn, built to receive travelers, their horses, and often their goods. The last fields give way to gardens, workshops, and houses built nearer together. Water slips from projecting roofs. The smell of wet earth mixes with smoke, timber, animals, and the faint sour warmth of brewing. The high street is not bright in the modern sense. Every flame has a cost. Yet the darkness is not empty. Light escapes beneath a shutter. A doorway opens and closes. Somewhere along the street, a voice calls briefly, then disappears beneath the weather. Your horse steps around a deep rut. The movement lifts you gently, then settles again. Up and down. Leather creaks beneath you. Rain whispers against wool. The animal breathes in a slow cloud that vanishes almost at once. Then the painted angel appears between the roofs. The sign shifts on its ironwork, just enough for the figure to seem to turn toward the street and back again. Beneath it, the gateway faces the road from London. A stranger approaching from this direction does not have to search through narrow lanes. The building announces itself through its position, its size, and an entrance made for traffic. Even in poor light, you can tell that it is newer than some of its neighbors. The angel is not ancient to you. In 1462, it has been receiving guests for only a few years. The first rent from the completed inn was recorded in 1456. What appears medieval to a distant future appears new, expensive, and deliberate tonight. Its story begins after a serious fire damaged Upper Andover in 1434. Winchester College, which owned land here, began to rebuild. Accounts record years of work. Timber, tiles, stone, locks, keys, and thousands of bricks were purchased. Even a carpenter connected with the king's works at Eton was consulted. The inn cost roughly £400, an enormous investment for the time. Its broad street front opened into an entire courtyard of rooms and working ranges. Travelers with horses, goods, and money were meant to see a building worth entering. Evidence suggests that red paint once brightened parts of the hall. Color was expensive, and it told travelers that this was an established place built for serious business. Not every guest experienced the same inn. Wealth brought greater privacy and heat. A solitary trader might receive a simpler room above the horses. You arrive with no servants and no spare animals. You have one horse, one protected bundle, travel-stained clothing, and enough coin to ask for supper and a bed. A figure moves within the passage and turns toward you. The person looks first at you, then at the horse, then at the bundle behind the saddle. It is a quick assessment. An inn survives by understanding what has arrived. You raise one hand from the reins. The response is a small movement toward the yard. There is space inside. Your horse takes the final steps from the rain-darkened street. The sound changes immediately. Outside, the rain belonged to open air. Beneath the gateway, it becomes 1,000 separate sounds. Drops strike tile. Water slips from timber. Hooves press wet earth. Leather moves beside a wooden wall. For 2 or 3 steps, the roof is directly above you. Then the passage opens. The courtyard appears beyond the horse's ears, surrounded by dark timber ranges and small pools of warm light. You have crossed no grand threshold. There is no ceremony. And yet the weather is suddenly behind you. The courtyard does not remove the rain. It gives the rain boundaries. Water falls through the open center, but the ranges around it break the wind. Roofs collect the weather and send it down in narrow curtains. Beneath the eaves, people and goods move with less exposure. The ground is dark and uneven, packed by wheels, hooves, and feet. Straw has been spread where traffic is heaviest, making patches of firmer ground under cover. Your horse slows. Other animals are close. One shifts inside a stall. Another exhales. Somewhere, a hoof touches wood with a single hollow knock. The person who met you reaches for the bridle. You speak only enough to make the necessary things understood. The horse has carried you all day. The bundle must remain dry. You require food and, later, a bed. Every arrival creates a short list of needs. The inn turns those needs into tasks. The reins pass from your hand to another, and you dismount carefully. For a moment, your legs remember the saddle. Your boots meet the ground, but your body continues to expect the horse's motion. You place one hand against the animal's wet shoulder. Warmth rises through the damp hair. The horse has done enough. Someone loosens the saddle while you untie the bundle. Its outer covering is darker than it was in the morning. The cords have swollen slightly, but they hold. When you lift it, the familiar weight settles across both arms. It is dry enough inside. That small success feels larger at the end of a wet day. The horse will be rubbed down rather than left under wet leather. Water and feed will be offered. Stabling and fodder are as important to travel as the room above. Stables occupy the ground floor around the yard, with chambers above them. A second gate allows carts and pack animals to continue through. The building behaves like a covered piece of road, widened into a place of exchange and rest. You follow beneath the range, where rain and mud are joined by hay, damp leather, and warm animal breath. The stable is a working place for animals that must be fed and protected. A worker checks the straps, removes the saddle, and passes dry material over the wet coat. A buckle touches wood. Straw moves beneath a boot. The horse breathes. Rain falls in the open yard a few steps away. Above you, a floorboard answers the weight of someone crossing a chamber. The rooms and stables are not separate worlds. They are stacked parts of the same working building. Later, when you lie down, you may hear an animal moving below. Privacy here does not mean perfect silence. It means a door, a defined place, and some distance from the hall. Across the courtyard, a figure passes through the light, carrying something that sends up steam. Food, fuel, and bedding all depend upon a household at work. Behind the calm promise of shelter is a household at work. You look once more at your horse. Its ears are no longer fixed toward the entrance. One turns toward the sound of feed, the other rests at an angle, listening without alarm. The worker gives a small nod. The animal is received. You move beneath the eaves toward the hall. The inn creates layers of shelter. The town after the road. The gateway after the street. The eaves after the open yard. The hall after the eaves. And later, a chamber after the hall. With every layer, the rain becomes less something falling upon you, and more something heard from elsewhere. You step inside. The first sensation is not heat, but the absence of wind. Your boots are still heavy. Water remains at the edge of your hair and inside the seams at your shoulders. Yet the air no longer moves against you as the air of the road did. That is enough to feel like warmth. There is a fire, though it does not fill every corner with comfort. Light catches the edge of a table, the rounded side of a jug, the pale surface of bread, and the damp sheen of your sleeve. Above, the roof and heavy frame disappear into shadow. There is no polished bar separating you from the household. Service moves between tables, kitchen, storage, and cellar. Authority belongs to the person who understands the building and everything presently inside it. Tonight, that person is Thomas Fewers. His name survives because 1462 is the year he takes the lease from Winchester College. The records preserve his tenure, but not his face or voice. So you recognize him only by his attention. It settles on the cloth in your arms. It follows the servant who has taken your horse. It notices which place at the table is open. When someone speaks to him, the answer is brief, and another task has already entered his view. An innkeeper here is responsible for rent, supplies, labor, rooms, horses, goods, and repairs. The inn is part household, part warehouse, part meeting place, and part transport system. Thomas notices your bundle. You explain that it must stay dry and close. He indicates a place away from the busiest passage. You set it down carefully. The outer wrapping darkens the bench, but nothing seems to have reached the cloth within. Then comes payment. There is no surviving price that can be applied honestly to every guest. Food, drink, feed, space, and status all matter, so no invented amount is needed tonight. You open the purse beneath your clothing. A few coins touch one another in your palm. Their sound is lighter than the rain and sharper than the fire. Thomas considers what you require. 1 horse, a simple supper, a place in an upper chamber. There is room above the stable range. The chamber is not the inn's finest. It is simpler and probably unheated. On this reconstructed night, it is still unoccupied. You count the agreed coins. Thomas closes his hand over them, and the matter is settled. Until this moment, you possessed a destination. Now you possess a place. Your horse has a bay. Your supper is being prepared. Behind one of the dark doors facing the courtyard, there is a bed assigned to you. The inn has converted uncertainty into order. A little water is provided, so you can clean the worst of the road from your hands. You loosen the fastening at your throat and lift the wet cloak from your shoulders. Someone hangs it where air and warmth may reach it. The wool will not dry quickly. It simply stops pressing cold water against your body. Without its weight, you feel strangely light. A door near the service area opens, releasing the smell of cooking, grain, onions or leeks, bread, perhaps cheese. Ale already poured. The exact supper served here on this night was never recorded. What follows is representative of the period, not a recovered menu. Thomas points toward an open place. You move the bundle beside the bench, close to the wall, and sit. For the first time since morning, nothing beneath you is moving. The meal arrives without announcement. A bowl is placed before you, followed by bread and a cup of ale. There may also be a small piece of firm cheese. The bowl contains simple pottage, food cooked slowly in a pot. Grain gives it body. Softened onions or leeks, peas, salt, and a familiar herb complete the warmth. Nothing in the bowl would surprise a person living here. That is precisely why it is welcome. You wrap both hands around the bowl. Heat moves into your fingers through the vessel. The first mouthful is soft, savory, and warm. After hours of rain, warmth does not need complexity. You break the bread and use it to gather what remains at the edge of the bowl. Then you drink. Ale belongs to the ordinary rhythm of diet. Tonight it is refreshment and payment to the body for the road already traveled. A jug serves several places. When it returns to the table, wood or pottery meets the surface with a low, blunt sound. Around you, other people eat. They are not a caste assembled for a tale. A person in a travel-stained cap bends over a bowl. Two companions share bread and speak too quietly to follow. Someone checks a tied packet beneath the bench. A servant eats when work allows. Difference is visible, but the table creates a temporary similarity. Everyone is indoors. Everyone has carried some part of the weather inside. Everyone requires food before sleep. Your bundle rests near your leg. From time to time, your heel touches it lightly, confirming its position without the need to look down. You take another piece of bread. The first hunger has passed, and eating becomes slower. You notice softened grain, the slight resistance of a pea, and the smooth wooden spoon beneath your thumb. The cheese, if provided, is firm and salty. A bite changes the taste of the bread. The ale softens the salt. Bread, cheese, ale, pottage. The sequence repeats without effort. Behind the meal lies a chain of labor. Grain was milled, bread baked, ale brewed, and fuel carried. Inside the hall, you borrow the household's roof, heat, vessels, food, and hands. In return, you pay. The arrangement is commercial, but that does not make the comfort unreal. A place can be both business and refuge. Rain traces the roof above you. It no longer lands upon your hood. It lands on timber and tile owned by someone else. You finish the pottage. The bowl leaves a circle of warmth on the table. Your clothing is losing its surface chill, and your body has begun to loosen. No minstrel begins a song. No quarrel rises simply to make the inn seem medieval. The room is interesting because it is ordinary. A spoon is set down. A bench shifts. Someone breathes near the fire. Beyond the wall, a horse moves once in its stall. With hunger answered, the hall reveals itself through fragments. Travelers compare tomorrow's roads and mention a bridge or a delivery delayed by weather. Your bundle belongs to the same network. Its wool passed through hands that washed, spun, wove, dyed, and finished it. That stored labor is why you protected it from the rain. The fire shifts inward. A piece of fuel settles, sending a brief glow across the nearest faces. Two travelers rise and follow a servant toward their chamber. Vessels are gathered. Bread is covered. Movement between the kitchen, hall, and yard becomes less frequent. The hall is changing from evening to night. You touch the wrapping of your bundle. It remains damp, but its surface no longer shines. Above the stable, your chamber waits without a fire. It will not offer the warmth of the hall. Yet it offers something the hall cannot: a door, a bed, and fewer people. The promise of sleep lies not in greater luxury, but in a smaller world. A light moves beneath the gallery. The time has come to climb. You rise, and the day's distance returns briefly to your legs. Your cloak is returned. It is not dry, but its surface water is gone. You place it over one arm and lift the cloth bundle with the other. When the hall door opens, cool air meets your face. The courtyard is now a dark square, with movement confined to the covered edges. Rain falls through the center. Small reflections appear wherever the light touches the ground, then vanish as it moves on. You follow beneath the eaves and place each foot where the light falls. The first stair answers with a low wooden sound, then the second. At gallery level, the courtyard appears smaller. Across it, the gateway is a dark rectangle with the wet street beyond. Your horse is somewhere beneath you. You cannot see it, but you hear the slow adjustment of its weight, followed by a breath. Other horses make their own small sounds. None is distressed. The angels' chambers are not equal. More prestigious rooms lie near parlors and chimneys. Yours belongs to the plainer range above the stables. Historical investigation finds no evidence that these simpler rooms were heated when first built. Their comfort comes from enclosure, bedding, clothing, and the fact that they are not the road. You stop at one door. The person carrying the light opens it and waits while you enter. Behind you, the door closes and a wooden latch settles into place. The chamber is small. That is its first comfort. The light reaches the walls without traveling far. Timbers divide pale infill. The roof lowers the room at one side. A shutter closes the small window against the weather. The surviving inventory records furnishings at the Angel, though not the contents of this exact room. The chamber holds a simple bed, a place for clothing, a filled mattress, linen, and a woolen covering. Nothing matches perfectly. The linen has been washed and used before. The cover lies unevenly. The frame carries shallow marks from people who stayed and left. You place the protected bundle near the head of the bed, where a hand can find it in darkness. The smaller bag rests beside it. The cloak is hung where air can reach both sides. It gives a soft, heavy sigh as the wool settles. Without the bundle and cloak, your arms are empty. You stand still and listen. The room has no fire, but it has layers of sound. The tiny flame is nearest. Rain lies beyond it. Below is the stable. Farther away, the hall has become indistinct. Beyond the inn, the road still receives rain and darkness. Each layer is quieter than the one before it. You touch the shutter. The wood is cool. No water is entering. The simple closure is doing what it needs to do. The same can be said of the room. It does not promise luxury. It promises separation from weather. It promises a horizontal place for the body. It promises that the horse, the goods, and the traveler may remain within one managed property until morning. That is a substantial promise in 1462. You require nothing else. The bowl below has answered hunger. The horse is under cover. The cloth is dry at its center. The bed is here. The person who guided you upstairs leaves. The door closes. The latch settles. Footsteps move away along the gallery, one board at a time. For the first time since you entered Andover, no one else is in the room. Below, your horse breathes. Above, the rain continues. The final work of the day is the work of becoming still. You begin with the boots. Mud has dried in thin ridges above the soles, while the leather remains damp. One boot resists, held by the shape of a foot that has warmed it all day. You ease it free and set it near the wall. The second follows. The floor feels firm and cool beneath your feet. Because warmth is limited, you loosen only a few layers. The belt is set down, the purse remains close, and wet garments are arranged to dry. You touch the cord around the bundle one final time. It is still tight. The outer wrapping remains damp, but the cloth inside has survived the journey. Your hands know enough from its weight and feel. The bundle can remain closed. You press one hand into the mattress. It yields slowly, not with the deep softness of a modern bed, but enough to receive the body. The material inside shifts. A wooden joint answers with a brief sound, then holds. You sit. For a few breaths, you remain upright on the edge. The horse moves below. The noise reaches through the boards as a soft pressure more than a clear event. A hoof brushes the floor. Straw responds. Then the animal becomes quiet again. You lift the woolen covering and lie down. The body has been vertical, mounted or seated for most of the day. Now its weight spreads across the bed. The room seems to tilt for an instant, as if the road's motion has continued without you. Then it passes. You draw the covering over the clothing you have kept on. The wool rests across the shoulder, chest, and legs. Where your garments remain slightly damp, warmth begins slowly, created by the body and held between layers. Nothing happens quickly. That is useful now. The rain repeats itself without asking for attention. One part of the roof carries a softer patter, Another receives a steadier stream. Water gathers, travels, falls, and begins again. From the gallery comes a final sequence of footsteps. They approach, pass your door, and continue toward the stair. A latch sounds somewhere else. Far below, a voice says a few words that cannot be understood. Another voice answers. The exchange ends, and the stable returns to breathing, straw and wood. The angel does not fall asleep all at once. It settles by degrees. In the hall, vessels are moved and the fire is made safe. Food is covered. Animals are checked. The gate may be secured when the expected traffic has ended. Each completed task removes a sound. The hall loses its voices. The courtyard loses its steps. The gallery loses its moving light. The stable keeps only the animals. Your chamber keeps only rain. The cloth bundle is a dark shape within reach. The cloak hangs farther away, slowly giving its moisture to the room. The boots wait beside each other, prepared for feet that do not need them yet. The objects of travel have stopped traveling. So have you. Mud remains on leather. Rain remains in wool. The cord remains tight around the cloth. But the road cannot enter. It stays outside the room, outside the gallery, beyond the courtyard and the gate. Only a few dozen paces may separate this bed from the high street, yet those paces cross several boundaries. Door, gallery, yard, gateway, wall, shelter is made from boundaries. The roof tells water where to go. The stable tells the horse where to rest. The cords tell the cloth how to remain folded. The bed tells the body that movement is finished. Below, one animal releases a long breath. Another answers with a smaller sound. They are only the noises of large, living creatures at rest. Their presence makes the room less silent and, in its own way, less lonely. Other sleepers rest behind neighboring walls. Guests, servants, and the household of Thomas Feuers are all held within the same timber frame. The oak does not know that future centuries will call it historic. Tonight, it is simply doing its work. Rain touches tile. Tile passes weight to timber. Timber surrounds the chamber. The chamber surrounds the bed. The covering rests over you. The sequence becomes smaller and smaller. Outside, Andover continues beyond the shutter. Water runs along the high street. A late traveler may still be somewhere on another road. A workshop stands dark. Stored cloth waits for market. Houses and lanes hold sleeping people whose names will never enter a surviving record. Inside the angel, your name is also unnecessary. The inventory can list rooms and furniture. The accounts can preserve rent. The structure can preserve the marks of tools. History can tell us that people came here with horses and goods. It does not need to know the name of every person who closed their eyes beneath this roof. For tonight, it is enough that one of them is you. The small light has nearly completed its purpose. Its glow shortens. The nearest timber becomes only a darker line against the wall. The bundle loses its edges. The far side of the chamber disappears first. You do not need to keep the room in view. Nothing in it is moving toward you. The rain remains where rain belongs. The horse remains below. The cloth remains tied. The door remains closed. The bed holds. The building grows quiet around you, one ordinary sound at a time. Time passes without being counted. No clock face is needed, no exact hour has to be named. Night is measured by changes too gradual to watch. The rain becomes lighter. The air near the shutter grows cooler for a while. Somewhere beyond the wall, darkness begins to lose its depth. You remain beneath the covering. The road will exist in the morning. Boots, bundle, and horse will all return to motion. But none of that belongs to this moment. For now, the inn holds everything in place. The horse is below. The cloth is beside you. The cloak hangs from its peg. The road is outside. Rain touches the roof more softly than before. A faint gray line appears at one edge of the shutter. It is not yet daylight in the room. It is only the first suggestion that night will eventually end. The timber frame remains dark. The neighboring chambers remain quiet. No footsteps have begun on the gallery. The angel rests between one day of travel and the next. So do you. In another century, the building will be altered. Rooms will change. Generations of innkeepers and guests will pass through it. Parts of the ranges will disappear, while other timbers continue to stand. But none of that has happened yet. The inn is new. Thomas Fewers is its keeper. The year is 1462, and rain is falling gently over Andover. You arrived before darkness closed the road. You passed beneath the painted angel. Your horse found shelter. Your food was warm. Your room was waiting above the stable. Now the entire journey has been reduced to a few quiet traces. Damp wool, mud drying on leather, a folded bundle, the memory of hoofbeats that no longer continue. The bed remains still beneath you. The covering keeps the warmth that has gathered slowly through the night. Below, a horse breathes once, deeply and evenly. Then there is only rain. Soft on tile, soft beyond the shutter, soft in the courtyard. The road can wait. Morning can wait. For a little longer, the angel holds the night, and nothing more is required of you.